Are you tired of being profitable on paper but still scrambling to pay the bills? In today's episode, we're going to be uncovering why, something like 60%, 50%, some large number of profitable bars are still facing cash flow issues. And we're going to talk about how to properly implement systems that could save you huge when it comes to having access to capital when you need it. Hello and welcome to the Bar Business Podcast, where we help bar owners increase profits, attract loyal guests, and simplify operations so you can avoid burnout and finally enjoy your life outside of your bar. I'm your host, Chris Schneider, the Bar Business Coach. Before we get started, a quick thank you to our sponsors, Spot On, who provide a great modern POS solution for the bar and restaurant industry, and Starfish, who use AI to turn your books into actionable steps to increase profits. So today we're diving into the critical difference between profit and cash flow, and we're going to explore a three-step system, three things you should be doing to prevent expense emergencies. And so I'm sure all of you that are listening, you're bar owners or looking to be bar owners. There's a lot of stress looking at your bank account, and that your bank account and your profit don't exactly match. And we've talked about that before. Cash flow and profit are not the same thing. So you can be doing really good in business and have a P&L that looks very healthy, but struggle still to make payroll or to pay expenses when they come due at the end of the month because you're not properly managing cash flow. So the really painful reality here is that, if we're honest, a large percentage of bars have these cash flow issues. And sometimes these issues can be really pronounced. And what I mean by that is if we think about a bar where you have a lot of seasonality, and maybe you're in Florida and summer is your slow season. So not having cash in summer can make it hard to cover payroll, even if across the entirety of the year, you're a profitable, good business. So we're going to talk about three things that I highly recommend you do today to really get your cash flow in line. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is your cash conversion cycle. And when I say cash conversion cycle, what I'm really talking about is inventory turnover. How long does it take you to go from cash into inventory and back to cash? Right? Because we're converting our cash into inventory. I always talk about that just being money sitting on the shelf. But then how long does it take us to convert that money sitting on the shelf back into actual cash that we can spend to promote our business and to move our business forward? And so if we look at industry data, ideally in a perfect world, we would all be in, say, 7 to 10 days. I like to say 7 to 14 days. 1 to 2 weeks of inventory is what you want to have on the shelf. More than that, you're just not having access to the cash that you actually have on hand. Because again, that cash, rather than being real cash, is bottle of booze sitting on your shelf. And so I look at a lot of bars and restaurants and I'll see, okay, your actual inventory turnover isn't 7 to 14 days. It's not a week or two. It's 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks in some cases. So it's really important to understand your inventory turnover and what you can do to move that forward. Now, the easiest way to do this, right? We can talk about all the math and stuff and we have before, but let's talk about some real practical ways to get this inventory under control and to make sure that you're converting your inventory into cash on a regular basis. The first thing is to start, don't look at your entire inventory. Look at your top 5 items, your top 10 items. Pick a subset and start in there because that's going to make it easier. Now, what you want to do is you want to start by looking at purchase dates. If you think about it, a lot of times when it comes to food, we buy something, we take a Sharpie, we write the date on it. When it comes to booze, we never do. So start looking at purchase dates on your top items and then figure out how long it takes to get rid of them. Now there's, again, math we can do, but you can just look at purchase dates, look at what's on your shelf and figure it out. And when you do that, see what that is. If that is 7 to 14 days, great. Just make sure you keep doing that. If that's 21, 28 or more days, then you have a problem. And so what you want to do is you want to reduce your inventory. Now, we always have to be careful when we talk about converting inventory into cash and how we want to be in that 7 to 14 day turnover. Because some of what a lot of you do and what I used to do when I owned a bar is bulk buying. And bulk buying is going to, keep your inventory on the shelf longer, but it's also going to save you money in the long run. So there is a give and take here. But particularly when you hit slower seasons. In your slow season, I don't care where you are. Everybody has a slow season, even if that's just, January and November, which tend to be slow months across the country and across the world. In those months, make sure you're running your inventory as tight as possible. You want as much cash in your bank account and as little cash as possible on the shelf when you know cash flow is going to be tight. The second thing I would say that you should really look at when you're thinking about how can I optimize my cash flow in my business is you need a cushion. right? And you need a cushion in your bank account. Why do you need a cushion? Because then, guess what? If cash flow is a little short for a day or two, it's not going to hurt you. Now, a lot of people, a lot of bars and restaurants, their cushion is 2 or 3 days, 5 days. And I'll be honest with you, that's not enough. I always say in your checking account, you should have a cushion of at least 14 days. And I don't like to really go above 14 days in a checking account because we're not earning any interest there. It's not really helpful for us. But you want that 14-day cushion of cash in your checking account. And then make sure that anything above that, some of that's your money as an owner, right? That's distributions you're going to take, but also dedicate an emergency fund and come up with some amount that every week you're looking at and you're saying, can I move this over there? Can I move this over there? Even if it's $100, $200, it adds up over time. So you want to have your cash flow reserve of 2 weeks in your checking account, and then you want to have a savings account or other accounts where you're building up additional weeks or even months of cash on hand so that your business is not interrupted if you hit a cash problem or if you're forced to shut down for a little bit or if there's a natural disaster and you're a tourist-based business, so there aren't tourists for a few weeks. You have to be able to survive those issues. Now, if you're doing that and you're under that 14 days, you better figure out a way to get that back there. And in a later date, or if you're curious, I do have a system to do that. So feel free to reach out and we can talk about that in a really good way there. But the bottom line here is you need at least a couple weeks in your checking account all the time of cash. You need an emergency fund. You need to have an amount of money that goes to that emergency fund every week so it can grow and build and protect your business if you come across cash flow issues. Again, the big thing I want you to understand here, if you don't have cash, you don't have a business. You can't buy things. So make sure you have this cash in place. Now, the last thing I want to point out real quick, as we're just touching on cash flow and things you can do to help ensure that busy, slow, whatever's going on in your market, you have the money to maintain your bar, is look at your transaction time. So we could look at a metric that we could call velocity indicator, and that's the average time from order to payment for customer transactions. Now, this is going to depend on the type of bar you are, but if you're doing high volume, it's really important to keep that transaction time really low, right? We want to get the order, put it in the POS, get paid, boom, done, right? A lot of high volume bars, you're not keeping tabs open unless you're holding a credit card or something. So if you are high volume, focus on that closing the tab. Let's get the order, let's ring it in, let's close it, boom, all of that within just a few minutes. If you're not high volume, right, that's not going to apply. But what I'm saying here, the reason why we're so worried about how long it takes you to get that transaction done, close out the tab, get paid, actually accomplished your cash flow. That's when you've actually gotten the cash flow that you need. That's when you've actually taken cash from the customer. So a bunch of open tabs are great, but a bunch of closed tabs is money in the bank. So make sure that you're making that payment process as simple as possible. Make sure all your tabs are getting paid for, because quite frankly, if you're giving stuff away for free, whether that's employee theft or just poor training, poor procedures, so that those tabs aren't getting closed out and people are walking on them, you're not getting the money you should to support your business. So today we've talked about 3 things that you need to absolutely watch for your cash flow. Watch that inventory turnover, those cash conversion cycles. Try to keep that as close to that 7 to 14 day range as possible. Make sure that every day you're looking at how much of a cash cushion you have, that you have enough cash sitting around to cover ideally a couple weeks of expenses in that checking account, and that you're working on stacking some cash away for savings. And also, if you are high volume, make sure you're looking at that transaction time, because that transaction time is going to dictate a lot of how quickly you get paid and how frequently you get paid for what you're doing. And so, big thing to remember from this episode, yes, your P&L matters, your profit matters. We love profit, but profit is only great when you have cash. You can be a profitable business, not have cash, and end up in the same situation that you would be if you didn't have any profit at all. So make sure you're monitoring your cash, make sure you're maximizing your cash flow, and make sure you have enough cash around for a rainy day. That about wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed today's insights, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you are ready to take your bar to the next level, schedule a strategy session with me by clicking the link in the show notes below. Until next time, have a great day, and we will talk again later.